was given to me.
Yeah.
I'd like to call to order the council meeting for the Mayor and City Council of the City of Taneytown for the month of October, and ask Councilman Frazier to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. Councilperson Fuller is going to be a little late tonight, but she should arrive shortly. First order of business is the approval of the minutes for September 6th and September 11th, the regular meetings. Care to make a motion to approve one or both sets of those minutes?
So moved.
Your second.
Second.
Any discussion? In favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. So carried. Just like to ask the council if there's any items on the agenda tonight that may pose a conflict of interest.
No, sir.
No, sir.
All right, we'll move right along then. Into resolution, ordinances and agreements. For introduction tonight, we have ordinance 13-2017, variance requests. It was reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Anybody have any comments on that?
I just noticed that here under section 1A, 1 sub A, it says said application shall be reviewed by the Taneytown Planning and Zoning Commission prior to the public hearing held by the Board of Zoning Appeals for the purposes of giving advisory comments and recommendations thereon. This wording is in italics, which means it didn't used to be in the ordinance, but it's being added into the ordinance. And I don't think that my colleagues should agree to put the Planning and Zoning Commission into the zoning work of the Board of Zoning Appeals. I think the Board of Zoning Appeals is the appeal board from a decision made by our zoning administrator. And I don't see the need for this nor the wisdom in going forward with an ordinance to add the Planning and Zoning Commission into this review procedure.
All right, this is up for introduction tonight, so you could make an amendment to strike that new verbiage if that's what you choose.
Well,
Second and
the only other new verbiage I can find in the whole ordinance is maybe just clerical by nature. In the back page, there aren't any other changes to it. So I would move to table it since it's of none effect. If we remove this language, I think that we should go forward with adding the Planning Commission to give advice and recommendations to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Those are two separate structures, and I tried to explain that on Wednesday. So I would move that we strike the language from it and then table it.
Is there a second? Hearing none, the motion will fail, and that will anyone care to make a motion to introduce that ordinance tonight?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
I think I just want to say for the record that, the whole idea of having advisory comments and recommendations is that nobody's omniscient, and it's almost like getting another, group of individuals to be able to think about or comment on something.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like
I'm
sign.
opposed to that.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, we need to set the hearing date. Need to set the hearing date for that.
And we set it for the November workshop date.
November 8th would be the day.
Next is ordinance 14-2017, which is the special exception request. again, that we discussed on Wednesday night regarding the Planning and Zoning Committee. Anyone care to make a motion to introduce this ordinance?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I would just add that, once again, under 14, 2017, special exemptions, the thing that's in italics in this is we're adding a layer of bureaucracy. I think the people, I've been involved in zoning hearings. Back in 1974, we had an application before the Board of Zoning Appeals, and it is a daunting task to go before these boards and commissions. I've watched the Carroll County Planning Commission. My wife was a chairman in the 1990s. Have lots to say about applications, and these things are expensive. You have to defend against them. And to add these words, the planning application shall be reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission prior to the public hearing held by the Board of Zoning Appeals, is the same reason I voted against that. I'd move to strike those words and to table this motion. Also, we don't want that. The structure is a person comes in with an application, it is consistent with the written law, equality under the law. If they get a denial, then they can go before the Board of Zoning Appeals. This extra review is not only cumbersome, it's discouraging, it's an impediment to people being able to move forward with their projects, and it's expensive, and I think it's not needed and actually dangerous. So I would move to strike that wording and table this one as well.
There's a motion made to strike the new amendments for ordinance 14-2017. Is there any second? Hearing none, the motion fails.
Well, before we vote, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask my fellow council people, how many have ever had an application before the Board of Zoning Appeals on a piece of property? Anybody here apart from me? I know what I'm talking about on this. You do not need a separate set of bureaucrats involved in picking apart applications. They're either consistent with the law or they're not consistent with the law.
I'm not exactly sure I would qualify the members of our committees and commissions and boards as bureaucrats. These are people, well, because these are good-hearted people. They have a vested nature in our community, in our town. They want to make sure that things are done right. And again, this is for the purposes of giving advice and recommendations. As I'd mentioned with the previous piece of legislation we just voted on, none of us are omniscient. No one knows everything, and there are other ways of looking at things that we might benefit from.
Well, I don't think you heard what I said. Applicants that come to do projects don't have to have two reviews from two separate boards of
There is
people.
a motion on the floor, and I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of introducing ordinance 14-2017, special exception request, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
I'm opposed to that.
Okay. Do we have to set a hearing date for that also?
Yes, same day.
Be the same
Same day.
day? That'll be fine with me. All right, these are for adoption this evening. The next one is ordinance 10-2017, outdoor displays and services in the downtown business district. Would care to make a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah. I guess there are a couple of things in here that I still, am uncomfortable with or would like to see amended or maybe even struck out. It seems to me in the discussion that we had about this on Wednesday night that there are situations in which simple common sense could play a better effect in how a store sets up or displays merchandise in front of their building rather than, for example, saying 60%. Because I know one of the things we discussed last week was that there is some concern. Well, do we have to have the zoning administrator go out and actually measure out buildings to make sure that a business is compliant with the 60% rule? I almost think that I would want to, put in language to the effect that within reason, you can have a certain display in front of your store, so long as it's not infringing on other buildings, so long as it's not coming out too far on the sidewalk. I'm not quite so sure that we have to limit it to, a specific percentage of the front of the building.
I agree with that. Would you be willing to move that we strike that? I'd second it. I think the 60% is not
So
appropriate.
you would strike 60% and put reasonable in place of 60%?
Yeah, a reasonable frontage of the storefront.
I don't think the word reasonable has any place in code. I mean, that's far too, very subjective. I think there needs to be, and you could say to the limits of the building would be a way to word that if you wish. That would probably be the only real recommendation.
Well, Mr. Councilman Wentz, that just would preclude people from putting items in front of somebody else's building.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Right. If we say to the limits of the building, to the extent of the building width, if you will.
I think that's fine.
I'm okay with that.
I could agree with that.
So how about you take your pen out and we write it on here right now so everybody's clear. So
Yep.
under 7, it would say outdoor displays of merchandise shall be limited to, and then you would scratch out not more than 60%
Right.
of, and just put the lineal frontage of the storefront.
Yes.
So it reads,
Sounds
outdoor
good.
displays of merchandise shall be limited to the lineal frontage of the storefront, and it continues on unless you make more changes.
Is there any other comments that anyone would like to make on this?
I had talked to merchants between Wednesday and today, and the idea of this new language being added to the sidewalk sale ordinance that says outdoor displays of edible merchandise shall be prohibited. There was a discussion on Wednesday about whether you could sell snowballs or whether or not our bakery could sell a cupcake out front. And Commissioner Frazier wisely said from the well here that there are 2 agencies that regulate the things that the Planning Commission seems to be concerned about. One is the egress, about passage safety, and that's the ADA. That if we wanted to work with them for enforcement of that, if we had egress, we could do that. And the other one is the health department. I don't see anything wrong. I think this edible merchandise, based on the comments that came from the peanut gallery, are aimed at a specific store. And I don't think that's appropriate to do that. And so I'd like to move that we strike that entire passage also. Outdoor displays of edible merchandise shall be prohibited. And let the zoning administrator
What about the
use
narrow
those
public
agencies.
sidewalks?
Use those agencies to make sure we have reasonable policing of the type and quality of edible merchandise used on the sidewalk.
Well, the purpose of that line
It's new.
was, that's correct.
Mhm.
Purpose was there was a store that was displaying, I guess, farm fresh eggs out front. And those eggs became projectiles by young people going down East Baltimore Street. And then they had to be cleaned off the fronts of buildings. Now, why are we displaying eggs out in the open? I'm not exactly sure. But there are all sorts of things. You don't have the health department coming up and down East Baltimore Street to police it. I think we can avoid it. People who are selling food, it refers to outdoor food service, and it simply asks that come before Planning Commission to make sure that it does not create a noise nuisance for the neighbors, because we have people living downtown, to make sure there are not other things that could become a nuisance, whether it's odors, whether it's open flame, things like that. So that's why we asked Planning Commission to have a chance to look at what is your plan to serve food outdoors and how is it going to affect the neighbors?
Well, these 2 sentences occur in different paragraphs. First is number 7, and it has a sentence tacked on the end that says outdoor displays of edible merchandise are prohibited.
Correct.
That's the one I'm offended by.
Okay.
And then 8 goes on to address the items that you said. Outdoor service may be permitted by the Planning Commission and shall require a sketch submitted by the Commission for approval. That's number 8. So I think that it's in conflict with each other. One, it's prohibited. Second, the Planning Commission can waive the prohibition. That's the way it appears to me from reading it, which is troublesome. So I want to take out the prohibition part, totally strike those words like I said I was going to make a motion to do on Wednesday. I think they're targeted to a specific group of people.
I think you're incorrect, and here's what I'll say. They're two different things. One is the outdoor display of edible merchandise. The other is serving food outdoors. There's two entirely different things there, and they need to be recognized as they are. That's why they're in two separate paragraphs. They're not the same. If you're serving food, you're not displaying food. If you're displaying food, you're not serving the food. They're two entirely different things.
You and I are very
Do you
different
think it would be
You are correct.
about the way
an
we do
appropriate thing for a business to do is to display farm fresh produce in front of
Or
their
the
business so if they were so inclined? I mean, the fact that kids threw eggs at buildings doesn't have anything to do with the merchants.
You don't ban the eggs
That's
if
an
people throw eggs and
That's an
vandalize.
enforcement issue.
Could I offer maybe what might be a compromise for this? Could we say that outdoor displays of edible merchandise are prohibited after a store closes? That means that the edible merchandise is not out to be, picked up by young people and thrown around. But at the same time, if a business owner also has a farm and they have like a crop of strawberries they want to put out for sale, they could do that while the business is open.
I'd agree to that.
Yeah.
Then the sentence
Might
would
be
not be
good.
about a prohibition of food. It would be about food after hours.
Right, that it can't be left out after dark or after the
I
business
think
closes.
that's a good idea. I would second that.
So you just add the words after hours,
Well,
after
can I-
store hours.
Who's going to be covering if somebody walks by and decides to spray bug spray on the cupcakes? Or if it's a pile of peanuts and some kid has a deathly, huge allergic reaction? Who covers that? I mean, you pick and choose how you want to, fight battles, but it goes both ways. I mean,
Counsel-
why can't they display their food indoors? If they've got stuff to give, they can sell it
There's a
indoors,
really
or
good
they
reason.
can give it away indoors.
When I was elected to
doesn't-
the council,
Why would I want to take food that's sitting
Councilperson
outside anyway?
Fuller, when I was elected to the council, the status of the law was that all sidewalk sales were prohibited. And we put in a 1 year or almost a year waiver of that expired. And and to answer your question, in my review and discussion with downtown merchants, there's a lot of traffic that comes up, but most people don't know what's in the stores. And it's very important to their survival to be able to show their wares on.
So they couldn't put a
the
sign in their
storefront.
window that says, "We have farm fresh eggs."
I don't think you feel how difficult it is for people to pay rent on some of these storefronts.
I think
We
you're
have
wrong.
far too few storefronts in use. We lost another store since we last met. And one of the reasons is because the people come through town and don't stop and know what these stores is. So I think it's very appropriate to not prohibit outdoor displays and not prohibit outdoor food displays. I think Councilman Bigliotti's suggestion solves part of the problem.
Or someone like
Do
to
you
make a
agree with that or
motion to
disagree?
amend.
And also just part of it.
Part of it.
Well, if something happens where, and you do bring up a good point
Mhm.
with the peanuts or somebody spraying chemicals, right? If something like that does occur, does that fall under our jurisdiction or is that the health department or
Well,
the county?
again, we
We don't have
we
liability.
can't
We don't have liability.
Not in that case.
No.
we can't. What am I trying to say? We can't regulate good behavior. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Mhm.
And people who, I mean, I was in the retail business for 35 years, longer than that when you count back. And it's critical to have your merchandise displayed where people can see it. And the less restrictive we are in that regard, the better it will be for the retailers. Now, the idea of peanut allergies or bug sprays on edible merchandise is something entirely different, or people throwing eggs at buildings. That's something entirely different than what we are trying to do here, or trying to control. We just simply have to be, allow a reasonable business practice that doesn't cause people any harm. I mean, the idea of restricting the merchandise on the sidewalk is so people can pass through. The notion that it should be no less than 6 feet will allow 2 wheelchairs to pass on the sidewalk, if you will. So those are the kind of things that we have to be careful of. We've got to assume that the business owner is going to act in good faith and good taste when he displays his merchandise. I mean, well, that's
Mr. Mayor, both of the examples given tonight are about people who break the law.
well again.
And so I don't think we can stop bad
That's
eggs.
the point I'm trying to
doing
make.
that.
This is not
You wouldn't prohibit the egg just
not to
because somebody
restrict
threw an
bad
egg.
behavior. We'll never do that
We
because as soon
can't
as we
do
try
that.
to
That's what law
restrict
enforcement
bad
is supposed
behavior,
to do.
some other thing we hadn't thought of will come up.
So
So are we looking to strike the sentence, outdoor displays of edible merchandise are
Somebody needs to
prohibited?
make a motion if
well,
they want to
he
strike
I
it
make
or
it-
add
I will
after
make the
hours.
motion.
and I agree
Mr.
to
Mayor?
that.
We need one person at a time.
Go.
I'll make the motion. Outdoor displays of edible merchandise are prohibited after hours.
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Okay. Now, any further discussion on
Yeah,
the
I have
changes?
one other thing before we go on. Just a point of order before I speak. Are you going to enact this tonight, or is this
Yes.
going to be set into public hearing?
This will
This will be
be
enacted.
enacted tonight.
Okay. This says,
What we're doing here is making changes based on the public hearing. So this is exactly what we're supposed to be doing.
yeah, I wish there were more people here to speak to this. It says the intent and purpose of this district is to provide logistical locations for retail services needed by the neighborhood populations. The permit use should, and in brackets I have here, generate low vehicular traffic and minimal vehicular parking. I'd like to strike that sentence from the statute because that's not what I want at all. I want the parking spaces to be busy with people coming and going. I think if you put this in, then people can use it for new applications. That they will judge whether or not it generates a lot of traffic or not. What we want is a busy downtown, a thriving merchant district downtown, so that our vacant stores are not vacant anymore. So I would make a motion to strike the words generate low vehicular traffic with minimum vehicular parking. I think that's a non sequitur, shouldn't be in our ordinance, and that's certainly not the goal or objective of my downtown district
Is there a second to
rules
that
and
motion?
regulations.
I'll second that. I'd like to ask the councilman if he could elaborate a little bit more on that about the generation of traffic in a situation where a business size are going to have like a mini fair outside or something, right? And how in a situation like that would you deal with a large volume of traffic?
First of all, if we go forward with this, now we have a second on the floor, which is good, thank you. The permitted use should, it would read, create as few ejectable influence for nearby neighbors. That's the way that would read if we struck those words. I think that it's unlikely that we would have that, but in the instance that a merchant consistently causes traffic concerns, I think that would be something that would come up for review of our municipal police force, or maybe the merchant would could be approached and asked to use the parking lots that are underutilized behind the building here or next door to the building over here. We could work on that if we had a problem. That's not the problem now. The problem now is we don't have enough vehicle parking downtown. People go through town at a high rate of speed. They don't know what's being sold in the stores, and they don't stop in the store and park. And to say that's one of the goals of the management of the downtown district is not consistent with what I want to happen.
What we're missing, though, because we're pulling into something that's not under what we're looking at. What we're missing is the list of accepted uses in downtown. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm. It's 5 pages long.
Right. There are permitted uses, and the intent is that it's not going to continue clogging our main street, which is the concern. I mean, it's oftentimes bad enough with traffic, with the trucks and things like that, that you're not trying to create more traffic. That's why we have parking off of East Baltimore Street, so that the traffic kind of gets out of there.
I don't want the planning commission to have the ability to review such a thing.
Well, that has nothing to do with any of this.
It certainly does. If it's
No, you're in left field now. So, I mean, we're not going to sit here and go through all of the permitted uses of downtown, but that, if you're looking to tackle this sentence, you need to tackle 5 pages of permitted uses.
No, just this sentence. It says the chapter 205 of the city code as annotated as follows, and it says section 205-19 shall be amended as follows. The purpose and intent, I want to strike that purpose for downtown uses. That we don't want to generate customers. We certainly do want to generate
Well,
customers.
because we're
I'm
trying
not
to
quite sure
encourage walking traffic, not vehicular
Yeah.
traffic. That's the downtown feel. That's the, come park if you need to or walk to it, but enjoy the shops, go up and down, see what we have. That's the whole concept of downtown.
Well, it must be a dream of the planning commission. It's not a dream of mine to have these spaces out here not busy, being parked full of people,
It
and
didn't
people
say
getting
that.
out and going into businesses and coming out of
It
business.
didn't say banning vehicular traffic.
No, it says one of the goals of the statute, or the goals of the guideline here, is the permitted use shall generate low vehicular traffic. Well, I'd just like to double the traffic for the bakery, a stone house across the street.
Vehicular?
Sure, I want people. I had suggested when I got elected that, and it went nowhere with this council, that we take out 2 parking signs and put in a 15-minute sign so people could run in and get a cup of coffee. I think that's a healthy downtown when people can stop along the street, run into a shop, get something they need, and then leave.
All
That's
right.
nothing wrong with that. That's exactly what a thriving downtown would look
Well,
like.
hold on, just Councilman Wentz, just so I'm completely aware and I make sure that I'm understanding this correctly. The intent here is not to stop people from going into the stores, but it's to stop the cars in order to increase the foot traffic.
It's to not create additional traffic congestion.
So there's no parking.
So you have-
get driving through town.
Right.
There are businesses that.
You all-
The
generally
idea
don't
is
have
the idea is that you have a cluster of businesses, stores, offices, whatever, in an area that people can go from store to store without having to drive from stores to store. They come downtown, they park their car, they get out, they visit the stores. You don't have all of that vehicular traffic at that moment because they can walk from store to store. That's the concept.
Well, perhaps we're talking about 2 different things. The concept that you just explained is very rational. What Councilman Frazier's trying to say is that the more the merrier. The more people we get downtown, the better it is for the business.
That's
Like,
correct.
And I
Healthier,
can
more
agree with
vibrant
both of
downtown.
those things.
And we do agree, but striking this does not solve it.
Why
And
not?
by striking this, you're going to create people coming in. You say have the police enforce if it's creating traffic. Well, there's nothing for the police to say that they shouldn't have this much traffic to their store vehicular wise, not pedestrian wise. So the idea here is an overall concept, a vision for downtown. We want people to be able to come downtown and not have to drive all over downtown to accomplish what they want. So we want businesses that create that people don't have to drive all over the place.
I could not disagree with Mr. Wentz any more than that. It is not the job of the planning commission to decide what the downtown businesses can be and cannot be.
False.
Okay.
That's 100% false right there.
It says, well, that's what you think your job is, but I think the job is to set guidelines for new applicants that would make our town more business friendly and have a more thriving downtown, so we don't have so many empty spaces. And striking this is a non sequitur that this would be in here based on what the reality of what's happening in our downtown right now.
Okay,
And
well,
I've made a motion, and Joe seconded, that we remove these. Did you second this one?
I will call
Yes,
for a
I
vote.
think you
If there's
did.
no further discussion. It seems like we've got 2 opposing points
It
of
would
view, but we
read
need to
like
bring it to a
this.
vote.
To
All right, I call the question.
objectionable influences by nearby neighbors. That I can agree with, but not this idea of reducing traffic downtown.
All right, so Councilman Frazier, you've made a motion to strike the permitted use should generate low vehicle traffic at minimum vehicular parking. sentence. Is that what you're saying?
Starting with the word generated and end with parking.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
Aye.
I think the nays have it, so we'll leave it like it is. Is there any other additions or corrections or suggestions that need to be made concerning this
Just one more.
ordinance?
Just one more, and this is just a question more so than anything else. When it talks about a production powered machine, right? Would that include something like a snow cone maker? Would the snow cone maker be covered under? Would that be covered under outdoor food service?
We would have to look at the permitted uses to see what it defines, because we had a snowball stand downtown, and it never created a problem. Jay, can you speak to that? You have the code in front of you.
Okay, I mean, because we're off base on, remember, this was to
Oh,
fix sidewalk sales.
Right.
Okay. So production, you got to read it the whole thing. Manufacturing and production. Okay. By powered machines. So it's like industrial uses. Manufacturing and production by powered machines. So it's not like snowball stands. It's not like hot dog machines. It's not like that. It's the fact that if you had, I don't know what you could have out there, some kind of metal making machine that somebody has downtown, some manufacturing process.
like a glass blower or a.
I don't know.
Well, that's not by machine,
A
so
vending
No.
machine that would stamp out dog tags.
I'm sure we could find lots of exceptions, but the idea, and again, this is the intent. It doesn't create a bar to it because there's all the lists of what you can and can't do in there. But the intent is that you don't want manufacturing things happening in your downtown. You want your retail and your people to be able to walk from store to store. You don't want a machine shop downtown, that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
And so the idea is if you read the intent section, it's not to say, hey, you can't do these things. There's, as Councilman Wentz said, there's 5 pages that tell you that. This is just to kind of give you the flavor of what you want to encourage there. And you don't want to encourage what it says, manufacturing and production by powered machines or wholesale distribution facilities. You see general categories now. Right.
Gotcha. See, I was just thinking about, because, to create a snowball is a production. It is kind of manufacturing a product. And I just wanted to make
at the
sure.
same time, so is beating, cake dough to make cupcakes.
I just wanted to make sure.
It's the same, right? The idea, as he was saying, is that you can read this and almost create an image of what the downtown should be like, and it's void of those things.
All right.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Jay.
Now, we've made a number of changes or talked about a number of changes.
One
This-
more I'd like to bring
this
up
is-
before you move to the question, if that's okay.
All right.
I just wanted to mention this phrase because in my polling, and I wasn't a comprehensive polling, but I did talk to many business people from the dog groomers all the way up and down the street. The idea, like our attorney just said, the ordinance that regulates sidewalk sales, it says a sketch plan submitted to the commission for approval. I want to strike those words. I think it's really offensive for people who struggle to pay the rent each month and stay in business in town to have to, when they put their sidewalk sale display together, to have to make a sketch of it and wait for a next planning commission before they can get approval of what they put outside. I just think they're way off base on this, and I think that would be a lot less honorable, not honorable, honor us, excuse me, if you've struck the words starting at a sketch, require a sketch submitted to the commission for approval. I don't think that should be in here at all.
Mr.
I
Mayor,
think that my idea when we talked about permitting sidewalk sales, which I think is now 2.5 years old, was that we take the word not out and just have it read sidewalk sales are permitted, and then police any difficulties we have using existing rules and laws.
of which there would be
We've ended up
none.
with a whole
but-
statute here with word after word restricting these outdoor displays, and it's actually called outdoor displays. It's called outdoor displays in the downtown business district. And so the idea of a sketch met with the greatest ire
Is that a
of the
motion?
people that I
Well,
talked to.
hold on.
Well, let's get a second if that's a motion.
I make it in the form of a motion. I don't know where that'll go. I think the other motion was a good one, but
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it for discussion, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
So let me explain how reading works. You have 2 separate paragraphs. You have one that talks about outdoor display of merchandise, and you have another one that says outdoor food service. It's the one with outdoor food service that requires the sketch plan, not the display of merchandise. So what you're referring to has no effect on displaying your merchandise outside, as you call a sidewalk sale. There's no sketch plan required. Nowhere does it say it.
Yeah.
As I explained earlier, I'm not done. Outdoor food service creates a possibility of new issues relating to noise, relating to odor, things that could become a nuisance. And that's why a sketch plan is requested to planning commissions, that they can make sure it's not going to affect the neighbors.
Well, I think that I understand what you've said and I hear what you've said,
Okay,
but I do think this is new language
right?
and it's onerous to the people I talk to requiring the planning commission to be involved in that. We
How
were
many
told
people-
earlier on Wednesday, we have regulations in place about food service from the health department. If we wanted to get involved in restricting something we thought was a problem, we certainly could get attention to something sort of a problem without this law.
No.
And certainly this idea of waiting for a planning commission and having to submit plans to the planning commission for them to cherry pick, I think it's the thing that generated the most conflict. I didn't like the smell of it when I read it, and I made a motion that we strike those words because
Any other
I don't think
comments?
that's the way the process is supposed to work. That you all sit up in this building and make and discuss what you like the way it looks and how you don't like the way it looks.
Well, that's actually a really rude way to say that. The planning commission, their purpose is to figure out what is best for the city, for the neighbors around something, for the zone that it's in. It's not what they like. We've done a lot of things that we don't like, but it wasn't offensive to neighbors or to the zone. So the idea here is that they can sit down, they can say, there are neighbors all around this restaurant, and this restaurant wants to build a deck and serve food until 11 o'clock at night. In other business districts, it's not a problem because they don't have residential mixed in. Downtown is unique. It has residences, it has businesses. We need to protect both. And that's the plan here, is to be able to protect both residents and business.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. We strike require a sketch plan submitted to the commission for approval. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, the nays have it. All right. I guess now we're back to the original motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve ordinance 10-2017 as amended.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
I'm
So
opposed to
carried.
this.
All right, one against.
I like
Again,
that.
but again, that's what public hearings are for. That all this came about because of the discussions we've had on Wednesday night, and that's the way things are supposed to work. Whether we agree or we don't agree, we had good discussion about that.
I agree.
And I don't think it's a lack of civility to talk through specific wording in a bill before we act on it.
Right.
So don't stop
All right.
saying that.
Next is Resolution 2017-14, the water allocation for October. Anyone care to make a motion to approve that resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. So carry. All right, next we have the city manager's report. What do you have for us?
Well, the first thing I want to, board directors, everyone's gotten an invitation from FSK, right?
FSK parade, homecoming parade.
I'll go. I'd be happy to.
Does she want us to
They
respond
want us
email,
to
or do you
respond to them.
Yeah. Did that come
But
over
do you
email?
want- Yeah, we can work it out.
Can you respond that we'll be there? That's the
Thanks
27th
for the
of
reminder.
October.
October 25th.
25th.
25th. Yes.
That's the one. I think that's the homecoming game. I think you could go to that.
5:30 p.m.
Right. And they'll give you when you respond, they'll probably give you the details to where you are positioned. In the
25th.
Yes.
And the lineup is basically,
Wednesday.
Yes.
as I understand.
Yes, indeed.
Okay,
Are we walking? Are we in a car? What's our?
your choice.
Okay.
But
What do you want to do?
Let's take horses.
You don't want to walk.
Horses.
Diane doesn't.
I got a big wheel.
Let's contact the car dealers and see if they'll donate a car for us to ride
okay,
in.
a
Okay?
car.
2 cars.
Or a hay wagon.
2 cars.
Yes.
A wagon,
Vehicle. Doesn't even have to be a car.
Yeah, wagons are fun.
Hey, how cool would that be? A horse-drawn wagon.
Now you've done it, Brad.
That'd be awesome.
It could be a pickup truck or a
Pickup truck, you can't put everything in. Not allowed to ride.
combine or something. I don't care what it is.
Okay, I'll see what I can do. I'll let you know. Because
Okay.
you're the one that's.
How many people can fit on a combine?
As long as you don't fall in several. But,
Work more if they do.
Oh.
well, Henry, can we charge you with figuring out transportation?
Yes, you did.
We'll do that.
Thank you. Okay.
Figure out transportation. I'm sure if we call
Yeah, we'll get you
one of our
lunch,
car
barbecue
dealers
sticks.
or both of our car dealers, they'll be
scooters?
generous.
You and I are okay.
They've never turned us down in 33 years.
I have a convertible, but I could only put 3 people in it with me. So maybe someone else needs to buy a convertible.
One of our police officers was
All right.
out of service at the moment. Alex Sonaris. I haven't heard an update, but he has multiple bones broken in his foot.
Did this happen on duty? Okay. Well, maybe you shouldn't do that anymore.
Well, at least for a while.
The other update, I guess, is that you probably already know this. We've already started the advertisement for the treasurer, and that's appearing in more things than what I actually thought it was going to be because the Frederick Post puts it out on a lot of sites, and we will be doing the 17th, 19th, 24th, and 26th of this month, and the last day to respond is the 20th.
Do that again.
Day is the last day.
You said 4:30.
But they're gonna have
Okay,
it the
that's
20th.
right. This is all occurring in September.
In October.
Oh, October 20th. Okay.
October. And just a reminder, we still, November the 1st is closing in on us, and we will have a special meeting that night to review the capital projects, set priorities. And that's starting at 7 p.m. Any problems so far?
What was the date of that again, Henry?
November 1st.
It's a Wednesday night.
Yes.
Night after Halloween.
All
Snack on
right.
some candy.
All right, that's all I have.
Did you mention we had to write for an extension for the audit review?
No, I didn't.
Why don't you mention that?
You just did.
Our audit was due October 1st. We didn't get it done because of the lack of a treasurer. We filed for an extension and until the November, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
November 30th.
FYI.
Also, FYI, the trash collection still goes out as normal because
Cash collection is normal, it'll be tomorrow.
All right.
Everybody
Any questions for Henry?
What's that?
questions for Henry. Could we put a reminder on our Facebook tomorrow that trash has got to go out tomorrow? Like just a little, that trash collection still goes out as normal?
Might be a little late.
Well, tonight. Could put up tonight. Oh, okay.
I don't have that ability. But
I'll-
we'll see what we can do.
I'll put something up on my Facebook too.
It's on the webpage. It states that on the
Yeah.
webpage.
I just figured, an additional reminder.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt. But
We'll rely on you on that one, Jeff.
Okay. No problem.
any question on the departmental reports? All right, how about the legal report, Jay?
Nothing new to add.
Any questions for Jay? All right, let's move into old business, and this was a discussion we began on Wednesday night regarding meeting protocol ideas. And the list you have on your table tonight is kind of a summary of the resolution that was presented last Wednesday and was withdrawn. And I guess the discussion should center around whether we want to pursue this idea or leave things as they are, or something in between. My personal opinion of it is that I think we're all right the way we are. I mean, it gives the presider flexibility to conduct a meeting, and anything we do to limit that flexibility is a downside as far as I'm concerned. So that's my opinion on all of this. If you want to take time and think about this until next meeting, we can do that. But I just thought we ought to put it on the docket since it was brought up, and see if anybody has any further comments on it.
Just a couple things. I said that if you passed it in its current form, that you'd be famous for restricting speech at the public meetings on Wednesday. And things like this. It says here that citizens are not supposed to get involved in a question and answer format. That's exactly what we want people to do. We want people to come and ask the council why a bill has been put before them and have us respond to them and have a dialogue with the public. Our work session is for public comment. I think we ought to allow public comment on the Monday meetings before we vote on all these important things, but that's been banned. I don't know why, but I think that I think that you've done a good job, Mr. Mayor, of regulating these things, but some things we do affect specific people, and they have the right to come and speak to that. Some of those things are emotional. I think you handle that pretty well. I think it's offensive to tell people before they come that they can't do this, they can't do that, they can't say this, they can't say that. They pay their property taxes and their water bills, and they ought to have right to come and speak to their elected officials during a public meeting.
I agree with part of what you said. I don't agree that I think I've done a very good job. I think some of the outbursts that we've had recently that have gone beyond control has disrupted the meeting, and that's something I'm not going to tolerate. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do about it yet, but I don't know that developing a list of do's and don'ts is what we need to do to correct it. Perhaps if that should occur in the future, we need to adjourn the meeting or declare a recess or something of that nature.
Well, let me ask you this in response to that. It says, number one, public comment is open to all citizens of Taneytown. All citizens prior to their comments shall state their first and last name. I remember one prominent town member that was offended by that because they serve on a board or commission. But Mr. Reed stood in the well and said, I don't live in town, but I have an interest to come to the council meetings and speak because I own properties in town and businesses. You know, several business owners live outside of town. That means they're not welcome to come and speak at the Wednesday night meetings.
No, anybody is welcome to speak,
Not if
but
this
they
passes
need
tonight.
they need to announce themselves and where they live, because what they say will depend on that.
Mr. Mayor, this is what I find the most ridiculous of this whole thing, is that this was brought forward to start a discussion and people are taking it that is law. The intent is start here, discuss, whittle down to what we believe is most important. If you don't start with the moon, you don't get anything. So the intent was not to get this passed today. The intent was to start a discussion. And people became so offended immediately that they couldn't even have a constructive discussion about it, which is a poor state of the council. But that's all caused by a poor state of, what's the best word for it? Misbehavior in public comment. The yelling, the attacks, a lot of what is on here is there to protect you from people attacking you where they shouldn't be.
I'm not thin-skinned like you are.
Well,
I
there's a
don't
lawsuit.
believe-
There's a threat of a $5 million lawsuit that's otherwise. But
Well, you've
It's-
broken the law. That's
well,
the reason for
this
it.
doesn't break the law.
This
Bringing
doesn't.
something up for discussion doesn't break any laws. That was the intent. I apologize that it offended people.
Public
I
comment.
think
is
it's something.
open.
I am not finished talking, Councilman Frazier. I still have time. I think it's something we seriously need to consider, perhaps not in the present form, but we really need to discuss something that gives the person who oversees the meeting something to point at and say, this is why I'm not going to let you do it. Because you talk about question and answer, that gets used to trap people. When they come up, they ask a question, and we're supposed to know immediately off the bat the answer to every single question out of the blue. That may require research to make sure that what is spoken on record and on camera is 100% accurate. Otherwise, it gets used in a defamatory sense. That's why we have employees who can answer those questions in a timely manner.
It's
Well,
not what it
again,
says.
there's some merit to this. So what maybe I should suggest is that we maybe table this for this evening and then take it up at a future meeting if you so desire.
I don't think
that
it ought to
sound-
come up again. Taneytown non-residents. Jay Gullo's not living in Taneytown. He shouldn't have the right to speak. He lives in New Windsor, I think. I mean, come
don't
on.
I don't think there's
It's
anything
ridiculous to say only people live
anything
in
in
Taneytown.
this or anything in our intent or anything as long as I've been presiding at a meeting. I've never restricted anybody from speaking
It's-
if they
but
didn't
if you
have
pass
that.
this-
Again, as I said, this was to start a discussion. You're getting hung up on little things
It's not little,
that
it's
can
right there in the
that
word,
can
right there.
that can
Only
easily be.
citizens of Taneytown can speak.
It doesn't say only, it says all.
It says that
It does not say only, and like Councilman Wen said, this is simply to start a discussion. Mr. Mayor, to the point of having something in writing somewhere, right? I mean, when people do get up to give, comment, right? There is some confusion about how much time they have. They don't always see the clock. They, sometimes if it's a packed meeting, you may want to limit the time, or they don't know that they're supposed to give their name and their address. So the general guidelines that we're currently operating under, maybe it wouldn't be, a bad idea to write them down and have a copy at the podium so that the speaker who is getting up to address council is aware of, what to expect, that they have to let people know where they live, that they have to, let people know who they are.
Yeah, I don't have any objection to something like that. A decorum or a protocol list that would be perfectly fine. Just something that reminds people of civility, I guess, is the main thing.
And if we need to, revisit that in the future, if something like that doesn't work and we do need to become.
If that doesn't solve the problem, we have to do something else. All right, well, let's do that.
So we need a motion to table. Is that?
Let's get a motion to table, and then we can bring it up any other time we need to. Is there a motion to table?
I'll make that motion.
Or second?
I'll second.
In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
I'm opposed to it. We shouldn't have any such thing. Forbidding people out of town from speaking to the council. It's ridiculous.
It doesn't say that anywhere.
It does say it.
We've already voted. The conversation's over. People need to learn when to talk.
We tabled this discussion. We're not going to talk about it unless you bring it up again.
I did bring it up.
At another
This has
meeting.
got real problems.
Another meeting. All right, let's go to new business. Financial reports. Anyone have any? Or anyone like to make a motion on the financial, to approve the monthly financial report?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. So carried. Next is the accounts payable. Anyone care to make a motion to pay the accounts payable?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
I'd like to ask a question about that before we
Certainly.
vote. That's all right. On the last page, page 12, it says Linda Zimmerman returned unused funds for the Board of Zoning Appeals, $147.07. What does that mean? Is Linda Zimmerman a member of the Board of Zoning Appeals?
No,
She had a case before the member of the.
What does it mean, unused funds?
Well,
You put a deposit down of $600, I think.
yes.
And the fees for conducting that meeting are subtracted from that $600. And if all that $600 isn't used, she gets the money back. If more than $600 is used, she has to pay more money.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Then on page 10, it says $1,433.70 to Flick's Pub. This is a check number 22302 for the MML dinner. That's apparently the amount that was spent by inviting the towns here.
Yes, but again, the town sent us checks to pay for their people, so
So it
That's
was
just
less
a
than
check.
the actual cost.
that was just a check we wrote after we deposited the checks they sent us.
So we got some reimbursement on that then,
We got all the reimbursement. We got reimbursed for everything.
because we paid something for my wife
Everybody
to go
that
to
came
that.
had to pay their fee.
Okay, that makes sense. Check 22304 is for August legal fees, $7,812. And then for July legal fees, $12,787 for a total of $20,600 spent in a 2-month period of time. $20,000 for legal fees for 2 months times 6 is $120,000. I just think that's outrageous to spend that for legal fees. During the campaign, somebody said that only the mafia brings their lawyer to every meeting. I think it's inappropriate to spend that much
That
for legal
is-
counsel.
Totally unacceptable to say something like that, Councilman.
I'm just quoting what was said.
Are you
during the
referring
campaign.
to our attorney as mafia because he's part Italian? Are you referring to us because I'm part
No,
Italian?
I just
mean, what-
quoted somebody. I think that's a huge number for legal advice. If that was an annual number, I wouldn't be upset about it.
It's not
But
just
I'm
legal.
upset about that number.
We were going through a court case, Councilman. There was a lot of other stuff going on other than usual business.
I think it's appalling.
That's a very good point.
We never voted on spending a penny on any legal case that I got a chance to vote no on, because you did it all. I don't know what authority you got under the budget to spend that kind
We
of money.
we were forced to spend money to defend
But I never
ourselves
got to vote no on it.
in litigation.
I never got to vote no on it. And I'm a member of the
But
council.
you don't have that choice.
I certainly do.
We have to pay the bills we incur.
I don't think it's a budgetary expenditure unless it comes under his what is your authority, $25,000 or $50,000 to spend things discretionary, Mr. Hine? $10,000. What's excessive the $10,000 discretionary?
Unless you have some
So where in the budget does that come?
specific problem with what you see there, then it's just a matter of expenses that are occurred.
Well, you think it's okay. I don't think it's okay.
Well, how do you know that it's not okay? Have you examined the invoice?
I see it right here. A check was
You
cut.
see a reporting figure for a check.
22,304
Did you
for
see the itemized
20,000.
breakdown of what the fees were?
No, that's why I asked questions under this report, because
You
these
have
are-
every right to look at that if you'd like. And then if you could come back and say, I don't agree with this entry.
and that's what I'm doing.
Mr. Mayor. Jim,
Yes.
I can give you an analogy that very closely relates to this. We don't have, last year, year before, we did not have enough money in the budget to cover the snow removal. So we went out and we hired and we had people come in and plow. Not prior approval either. It's no different. I see no difference. You can't manage or run a city if I have to come to you every time to ask for money.
This is a policy decision. I think policy decisions that violate the budget should come for a vote for the council.
You have to pay the bills. And what our responsibility is at the end of the year, is if the budget is not balanced, then we need to hold staff accountable. If the budget is balanced, then we've done our job.
And then there was a couple other things, but I don't think I'll bring them up.
All right. Next is, I need a motion I've got a motion and a second. I need everybody to say, would you like to pay the accounts receivable? Say aye.
Aye.
I'm opposed to it.
Okay.
I'm opposed to paying
Okay.
$20,000
I
in a 2-month period for
I
liquor
know you
payments.
are opposed to it. All right, next is a bid recommendation for the streetlight retrofit program that appears in your packet. Anyone care to make a motion to approve the streetlight retrofit bid as recommended by our utilities director?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
In favor, say
For
aye.
the record, could you state the amount of money?
$48,416 to the benefit of Rodkey Electric. They were a little better.
Thank you.
In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. So carried. Very good. Moving to council member reports. Councilman Frazier, do you have any report for us tonight?
I'd just like to thank the town for the fall harvest event, inviting the reenactors, a chance to interact with them. And I thought that was a really good idea to do that. And I thought it was a wonderful day. I love the fall, and I really enjoyed that specific day. I also got a bowl of chicken corn soup at the Piney Creek Church of the Brethren before I came over, because they had their apple butter festival, and I like apple butter, and that was a wonderful time. So I appreciate the events that are done by the Department of Economic Development, and I want to thank him specifically for that idea.
Thank you. Councilman Wentz?
Had a very good time at the MML dinner we had last month at Flicks, especially the talk from the state regarding cybercrime. It's very good to hear that the state is working on that and offering resources to other local governments to combat it and work with it, things like that. Mr. Mayor, I do want to bring up, I know I talked to you prior to the meeting about this, disturbance Saturday night. And what started for me at 10:30 of hearing extremely loud music to the point where I could pick out what the song was. So I went to see maybe there was someone the next street over playing music in their car, but it wasn't. It was Antrim with their private party. Music that I could hear all the way over behind Southern States. That seems awful loud to me. Until the fireworks hit at 11 o'clock at night. And I'm all for people celebrating and having fun, but we have a city of nearly 7,000 people with children who are asleep well before 11 o'clock at night. And I just have to say, it's not acceptable for that to be happening in the city. And I hope that it can be addressed, and I think maybe we need to revisit the talk we had previously of public nuisance ordinances.
I agree with that. Henry, Henry and I had this discussion earlier today, and we're planning to send a letter to Antrim, letting them know that we hope that's not going to happen in the future.
Yeah, we had basically had an agreement with Antrim years ago, and it was more or less, it wasn't a signed document or any of that thing, but what they had agreed to was that there would be no fireworks shot off after 10 p.m. And obviously, in this case, it didn't happen. And I think I talked to the mayor earlier, but we should probably send them a letter reminding them of the agreement, and the mayor can pen it.
But the idea of pursuing the nuisance ordinance probably is something that we should do. We've talked about this when we talked about bees. It comes up every once in a while when something onerous happens, and it's a good time to revisit it. It can be,
But that would
be a broad ordinance.
in this particular case, I think it would probably be more appropriate under disturbing the peace.
Right.
Okay.
But no one, looking at the comments basically on Facebook, it's a full spectrum. You had those who said they don't want it at all, those who said they loved it, those who said, well, it's okay, but 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock was just a little bit too much. So it's really kind of all over the board.
Well,
public's
again,
feelings.
I think everybody has a right to a good party, but there are limits.
Like we had at James.
Like we had at Jake's. Right. Great part. Yeah.
Good thing that was a New Windsor.
Yeah. No one could hear those fireworks. I think that's the key. I mean, we can all appreciate legal, safe fireworks. There's just a point where there has to be some respect given to the rest of the city.
Well, the interesting thing was I saw that it was posted by the Taneytown Police Department announcing it.
At
But
10 o'clock.
Well, that's when they found out about it.
Well, no, it said they were going to happen at 10 o'clock.
Right, but it
They
was
did.
like they found out about it like just before that
Right.
too.
So there's a lot of communication, but at the same time, I think as a whole, it's a matter of a discussion that has to happen to prevent it in the future.
Well, again, I think if we approach, I mean,
Yeah.
they're
It sounds like you're on it.
they're reasonable people. I mean, we express our displeasure. They're going to cooperate. I don't
Right.
have any doubt about that. I don't.
Okay.
They at least need a chance to do so.
Right. Mayor Pro Tem Foster, what do you have for us tonight?
Nothing.
Councilman Vigliotti.
Just a few very brief things. First of all, the chief wanted me to convey that the two newest hires for the police force, our two new officers, are in field training. They're doing well, they're fitting in, and they are an asset to the force. One of the things that the police department has been doing to great applause from the public is that they have been publicizing some of the things that they've been doing. For example, when they do sidewalk patrols or do security checks of businesses and buildings at night, these are a lot of things that go on that citizens don't always know that their police force is doing and making sure to ensure safety in the community. They have been posting these sorts of things, and the community is responding very favorably to this. And it's certainly an asset to the community itself at large. And then the only other thing I'll want to mention is that Nancy needs to be congratulated. They're putting together Fall Harvest Fest. That was an extraordinary event on Saturday. We had hundreds of people who showed up to that event here in town, and that certainly a credit to this town. And I look forward to our Christmas tree lighting in December. And that's it.
Sometimes the weather doesn't cooperate, but they cooperated pretty well Saturday.
Sure did. Councilperson Fuller.
The only thing I was going to mention is the young lady Rachel Stesh. I'm not sure how to say her last name. Do you know? She and I are going to be working together over the winter on a project. Back during the election time, I had mentioned that I wanted to get some just small self-help classes going, try to get people together in the community, maybe help out single moms, younger parents with just odds and ends. So we're going to get together and try to put together a plan. So if anybody has any input or wants to be included, they can get in touch with me and try to get
Sounds
something.
like a good
Awesome.
idea. And keep us
Right.
abreast of any resources that you might.
Okay. Yeah, and that's I'm hoping people just volunteer some time. If I can get a plumber to volunteer to teach them how to, stop up or get rid of a clogged drain, whatever it is. Just simple things that some people really don't know how to do.
That's awesome.
So we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, I had a couple things that have already been covered. The homecoming parade's covered. The Fall Fest is covered. I want to let everybody know that I attended an open meetings training session this last week, and sponsored by the county, and I encourage you all to do the same. It's good to have that refresher. I've probably been to about 11 open meetings sessions, training sessions over my time, and you always learn something. So you can do that online if I looked on the agenda down at the fall conference to see if it happened to be on there, but it's not. So
Yes, it is.
it is.
Yes.
I already took mine.
I took mine online, yeah.
Oh, it's open meetings?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's online.
Well, if it's down there, go to it. There we go.
Wait a minute,
That
no,
was the
I'm
next
wrong.
thing.
I'm wrong. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. It's
You're thinking of something else.
it's public information.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well,
Close.
the fall conferences starts tomorrow and runs through Saturday, so I'm glad we have a good participation from council going down there. It's very rewarding and it's very beneficial to the citizens when we attend things like that. And I think that's all I have. Does anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
albeit. Thank you.